you may have more public trust than you think. And we're talking about that today on the Church Revitalization Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to the Church Revitalization Podcast, brought to you by the Malfers Group team, where each week we tackle important, actionable topics to help churches thrive. And now, here's your hosts, Scott Ball and AJ Matthew.
Welcome to the Church Revitalization Podcast. My name is Scott Ball. I'm joined by my friend and co-host, AJ Matthew. AJ, I have a confession to make.
Oh, do you? Wow, live on the air.
Yeah, well, I like to think that I'm right a lot of the time, or even most of the time. But I'm not always right. Sometimes I'm wrong. And I have got something wrong, kind of.
Okay.
On this podcast.
Spill it.
Okay. Spill the tea. That's what the kids say. Spill the tea. You've got teenage kids. Heard them say this?
Yeah.
Spill the tea.
I'm not up on the teenage kids speak.
Yeah. Well, my wife's a middle school librarian, so that's how I know. Okay. So here's the tea. I have said on this podcast for a long time, as recently as maybe just a few weeks ago, that pastors don't have the same cultural sway that they did 20, 30, 50 years ago. And I think that my observation, the implication is the same. We've got some new data that's going to dispel that assertion slightly. I think that the implication, though, is still the same. I think that people don't have the relationship with pastors and with churches that they did 30, 50 years ago. I think that that's still true. Yeah,
I agree.
But the root cause is maybe different. I just kind of assumed that maybe people don't trust pastors and they don't want to talk to them about their problems. They'd rather go to Pastor Google, or to their psychologist or whatever. And I think that there might be a grain of truth in that, but I think I may have overstated my case. So maybe share a little bit of what this data is that we've come across, and it's some relatively new data that's come from Barna.
Yeah, so recent Barna study. So this little headline piece we have right here, U.S. Adults on Trusting Christian Pastors, is the title of this piece of research with this chart, is showing perhaps as high as 70% of just U.S. adults in general, not Christians, U.S. adults.
I guess that would include Christians.
Yeah. So 70% say either somewhat or entirely they would trust a Christian pastor for guidance on having difficult conversations about sensitive topics, which is kind of an interesting little sort of niche question.
Yeah, an interesting phrasing. It'd be interesting to know how much that influenced it. But
that almost sounds like the specificity of the question, specifically talking about sensitive topics, might even be a lower number than just something in general.
Sure.
Might be a higher trust in something more broad.
Yeah, that's a good point. And what was interesting is that Barna found that this, as polarized as our country is today, the gap between, say, Republicans and Democrats or conservatives and liberals isn't too great. I mean, the 68% of Democrats reported that they trust somewhat or entirely a Christian pastor, 84% of Republicans, so it is a higher number for conservatives, but that's a higher number than I would have expected from Democrats, if I'm being completely honest with you. And so the point of this is, and what we're going to use this as a jumping off point in our discussion today is, I was wrong. You have more built-in public trust as a pastor than I would have assumed that you have. And I think what this means then is, the implication of this is that it isn't so much that people don't trust pastors, it's just that they don't know them. They don't have a relationship with them. So this is why I was saying the implication's the same. They're still going to Pastor Google. They're still going to their psychologist. They're still going to their counselor or whatever because they have, because the convenience of Google, and they have a relationship with their counselor or whatever. So they're going those places first. But so I think the implication's the same. But the reasoning is different. And I think that this data tells us, AJ, that there is something that you can do as a pastor to leverage the public trust that you have to actually be a positive influence and be impacting your community in ways that you might not be right now.
Yeah, that could very well be the case. Somewhat to defend you, this is the first benchmark that we've had. Maybe 50 years ago, 90% trusted a pastor, and now it's down to 70. We just don't know. You might not be wrong. Really, this is just a surprising number for both of us. We just would not have expected that 70% of adults would trust a pastor.
It's much higher than I would have thought. Now, a high number of people in this country, in the United States at least, still self-report as Christians. And among Christians, it's 94% either somewhat or entirely trust pastors. And so, you have to look at that 70% number, which includes Christians. They're probably making up a lion's share of that number.
Yeah.
So when you get outside of the self-reported Christians, that's going to be by percentage point, they're going to be more in that, remaining 30% that don't trust pastors. That being said, the number is still much better than I would have thought.
Yeah. And regardless, the topic for today's episode is just three relatively simple things that you could do to perhaps foster greater relationships among those that don't know you. Maybe that's a few more people in that 70% that might turn to you and want to talk with you. So, you ready to jump in?
Yeah, let's get into it.
Let's go. Number one, passively invite people to share their challenges with you. So, how could that be done? What are we talking about here? Well, a couple things. Well, a more general thing than something more specific. So, first of all, in general, spending a little bit more of your time out of the office. So, if you've got some, relatively low-level thought projects that you could be doing, maybe the coffee shop or the cafe, the bakery, whatever it is, might be a cool place to work. Get out of the office, which might be good anyway, but get yourself into a public space and be available. Now, this works great, especially for you extroverted guys and ladies, because you like that anyway. Be in a public spot. Maybe the person sitting down next to you, happens to glance over and you're comfortable striking up a conversation with them. That's awesome. God bless you guys. That's not me, but I love that you're out there. So that's one thing, right, Scott? Is there any other scenario, I guess, that would work well for that general topic?
Yeah. I mean, just maybe a little piece of advice would be we're so, and I'm as guilty of this as anybody, but when you're sitting out there in that coffee shop or the cafe or whatever it is, don't put your headphones in, Take your headphones out. You might hear something going on. You might just normal, not non-creepy overhearing of a conversation. Or you might hear the voice of someone that you recognize that's popping into the Starbucks, and you could turn around and be like, oh, there's Jim, and actually be able to talk to him. Whereas if you've got headphones in is the universal sign for leave me alone.
Yeah.
And so you're putting out a message to everybody, like, don't talk to me. He's got headphones in. So True. Take the headphones out, and to AJ's point, don't bring like the most serious thing where you have to have the most concentration. Don't bring that. But if you've got emails to reply to, or maybe you're just putting the final touches on your sermon, or you're making the slides, or whatever, something like that that's less thought, like less attention draining. Take that to the cafe. And I'm all for office hours. I think office hours are important. I think that there are a lot of pastors that don't do enough office hours. But recognize that office hours are a signal to the people in your church that you are busy and important and working. Your physical presence out in the community is a sign to your community that you're present and you care. And so you need to find a balance between those two things. We actually have a really creative solution. AJ, do you want to share something that we've actually developed, a tool that you can use to make this process even easier for you?
Yeah, there you go. Maybe, Scott, pop up on the screen for us a picture, because we designed this sticker that you could use for passive engagement with people. So there you go. Have a look at it. It says, I'm a pastor, which 70% of people are okay with that, apparently. And it says, want prayer, pull up a chair. So this is designed, so this is a tech-friendly sticker. It's not going to leave goo all over your laptop case if you peel it off. Open up your laptop, have it there at the cafe, and maybe somebody's going to glance over there. They're going to go, okay, that's interesting. And who knows, 1 out of 1,000 might actually walk over and go, can I ask you about something? 70% of U.S. adults are comfortable doing that. So the odds are in your favor. You're going to end up in a conversation with somebody you don't know. And if that is something that you care about, and I hope it is, then this simple little tool might be something to open up a conversation for you. Now, you're saying, where can I get this amazing device that the Malfirst Group is offering today? I'm glad you asked. And if you're listening on the podcast, go to malfirstgroup.com/163 for today's show notes, and you can see this marvelous sticker and link there. You can click on it to buy it. So yeah, you can go to malfirstgroup.com/sticker, and you can purchase it right there for the bargain price of just $10, and we will mail it to you post haste. And the bonus, we're a nonprofit organization, and the proceeds from these stickers are just going to go right into our funding for resourcing global pastors. So there you go. Help us out. Help others out. Help yourself out. Help your community out. It's a quadruple win.
Yeah, it's a win for everybody. I think that I love this idea, and we were talking in preparation for this episode, and I'm like, man, that makes me uncomfortable having something like that on my laptop. Not because I'm worried about the residue, because this is, by the way, a tech-friendly sticker. It's removable and won't leave the goo, like AJ said. But nervous because that might mean like some crazy person or is going to come up to me, or it's an interruption. This is what I'm telling you. Don't bring your most intensive work to the coffee shop. Bring a light work. Anticipate an interruption, a distraction. And if it makes you uncomfortable to think, hey, someone might come up to me and actually take me up on this, that might be a point of repentance for us to go, what am I doing this for? Like if it's not to meet people who are in need. And this is a totally passive idea that we have. We're not telling you walk up to strangers in the coffee shop and go, how can I pray for you today, brother? I'm not asking you to do that. If you were to put a sticker on your laptop and someone takes you up on that, would you be willing to then have that conversation with them, no matter how crazy they might seem, and pray for them? And you never know what that could lead to. So that's the first thing. Just find ways to passively invite people. AJ, one more thing on this before we move on to the next one. It used to be, there was a point in history where, if you were in clergy, you'd be wearing a collar, you'd be wearing something. And I know that some people still do, but that's the exact same thing, right? It's a way to passively identify yourself and say, I'm a pastor. If you need something, I'm here for you. And this is think of it as a 21st century way to be at the coffee shop and to not be wearing a collar, but to be communicating the same thing. I'm here and I'm here for you. Yeah.
I would like to hear some stories of how this works out. So I hope.
Me too. Go buy a sticker.
I hope you guys take us up on this. All right. Hey, our second one is creating content and marketing online. So this is just a way of being where the people are, right? Everybody's online. Facebook, Instagram, whatever. But there are some good resources for just creating engaging content that might be helpful. So this is a little bit more of a kind of a individual corporate partnership with your church of, like your church producing something, but do it with the angle of maybe one-on-one engagement with you, not necessarily just the church in general, because again, people, I don't know, we didn't get this out of this Barna study, but people, I suspect, would have a different answer to the question if it was phrased, would you trust a church for guidance on having difficult conversations about sensitive topics? Because I think that just opens up a whole new spectrum of what your definition of church is, what your experience with church is. But using this term pastor it's a one-on-one thing. It's an individual relationship. So don't just do this from the angle of the church, like, oh, First Baptist, come ask us questions, come talk to us. No, let's do it from you. And we've got a couple resources that we're linking in here also in today's show notes. One of them is Christian Vision. So this is a global nonprofit organization that has tons and tons of free resources. And a lot of their stuff is really focused on free evangelistic resources, including a lot of online marketing options to help you run ads and be able to make connections with people. And maybe even almost everything they do is free.
I think it is free. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So that's one. Christian Vision. We'll link to that in today's show notes. And the other one is Church Marketing University. Great friends of ours over there at CMU. And not everything they do is free, but they do have a lot of free resources that can help your church do better at social online engagement. And so that's kind of the thrust here of point 2 is creating content that will engage people, not just like click on our church website, but something specific for engagement with you, the pastor.
Yeah, and maybe it is click on the church website, but then from the website, there's a way to connect with you. Like we use Calendly here at the Malfers Group. You pretty much go anywhere on our website, and it says to connect with someone. It's going to take you to a calendar, so that when we say connect with us, we don't mind you sending us an email, but like we want you to be able to actually connect with us, so you can pick a time and you can schedule something. So, finding ways to incorporate that kind of level of engagement on your website, so when someone sees a piece of content and it's helping them or they have more questions, they can actually connect with the pastor or someone on your staff, so then they can get the help they need. But we did an episode a couple weeks ago on how to start a church podcast. That's one thing that you could do. You could, start a podcast and start marketing that. I was just, as you were talking, AJ, I had the idea of, do you know those wired autocomplete interviews that they do with celebrities? Have you seen these?
No. Mm-mm.
You have to look it up on YouTube, but Wired does these autocomplete interviews where it's like questions about a celebrity, like Clint Eastwood, and then what is Clint Eastwood, and then they peel a piece of tape off, and it's like whatever the autocomplete.
Oh, I have seen some of those. Yeah, I'm with you.
And then they answer the questions. What it would be cool to do, like a marriage autocomplete interview, like marriage problems, and then and then let the pastor kind of answer those questions. What are the top things that are Googled about marriage, about parenting, about whatever, and kind of make a series of videos. So go do that.
With you. See what's on Google. Not make these up yourself. Find it on Google. What's on Google.
Right. Make a video. That's good. And let the pastor kind of peel the tape off and kind of address what those questions are about marriage or about parenting, about finances, from a godly perspective. Someone go make that video. I'd watch that.
That'd be fun. Yeah. All right, cool. All right, man. Hey, number 3, join a civic organization or some kind of local nonprofit board. So there's a lot of options here, but getting engaged just in your city. So this is this is an individual thing. There's lots of city boards that you could probably join. Small cities especially are always looking for people, economic development boards, parks boards, library boards, these kind of things.
Yeah.
And then you've got these, like other organizations, Lions Club, Rotary, Chamber of Commerce. I developed actually a really good relationship with a pastor that I met at a Chamber of Commerce thing many years ago, and he became a good friend. So I think that that has merit. So plus you're doing good. Whatever this organization is that you're providing some time to, that's a good thing to do. But it just gets you visible. That's just another way that people can meet you. It's a good way to tear walls down for some people because they're going to see you. Hopefully you're a nice person and
Right.
you're open and welcoming and easy to talk to. If you're a grouch, throw away everything that we were talking about.
Well, none of these ideas are good if you're a
stay
grouch.
inside if you're a grouch. But yeah, you might be able to tear some walls down with somebody that doesn't believe the way you do or have the same political leaning or social leaning that you do. But if you could just develop a friendship with somebody and let them see that you're a welcoming person, you can have open conversations and you can hear what they have to say, then hey, that's just an opportunity. That's just an opportunity to meet somebody that might someday be open to the gospel. So that's a good investment of your time. So civic organizations.
100 years ago, pastors and ministers and clergy were regularly. It would have been like, duh, I'm on a board, I'm on a council, I'm on a whatever. And for whatever reason, over time, we've retreated further and further and further and further back, as if we don't deserve to be in those spaces. We've relinquished those spaces to business leaders or community organizers or whatever it is. And not that there's anything bad about any of those folks, but if we want the church to have a voice in our communities, you have to be in the places where voices shape the community. Yeah. And we've just given up on those spaces, I think, by and large. We've been like, that's not our domain. Why? Why is it not? Why doesn't the church have something to say about economic development or about parks and recreation or whatever? I'm not saying run for office. I'm not saying that. I'm saying find a committee or a board or some civic organization that you can speak into. And then that way, this can also, side benefit, AJ, is get your church out of that rut of, well, we just do the same 3 outreach things that every other church in town is doing. If you're in those rooms where decisions are being made, where needs are being voiced or expressed, you can have your ear to the ground in ways that other churches aren't. And you can get your church involved and active in ways that meeting needs that you wouldn't have known about, if you were just hanging out in your office every day, all day. So I think that this is obviously takes the greatest amount maybe of initiative and really putting yourself out there, I think, to find a board. But you're right. If you're in some major city, it's maybe hard to crack into those things. But if you're in a mid-sized town like I am, which is the majority of this country, it's not that hard because people are not beating the door down to join these councils. At least that's my observation. I don't know. AJ, you've got some experience in that, so you probably have more to say on it. Yeah.
No, I mean, coming from a small town perspective, yeah, for sure. There's almost always some place that you can get plugged in. So, hey, there you go. You probably have more public trust with people than you think you do. And so these are 3 relatively simple ways that you can try to engage people more. The passive way of just simply being out there in public and maybe utilize one of our Malfers Group fundraiser stickers that says, I'm a pastor, want prayer, pull up a chair, to creating online content that would engage with people. And I love the creating the video idea that you had there, Scott. To joining a civic organization or some kind of a charitable organization that you can engage with and meet people. I think those are 3 relatively easy things that you could do if you're saying, all right, Malfers Group guys, where in my week would I possibly find the time to do that? I guess I would just have to say, make the time. Mm-hmm. And if your schedule is truly that full, you're probably already dropping some other important things that you should be doing.
Yeah.
We have an old episode on time management too, don't we, Scott? Somewhere back there in the archives.
Yeah.
You can probably search that up.
I think it's episode 66, and I think I only know that because I think we mentioned it in last week's episode.
Did we? Okay, wow.
So
getting some good use out of that one.
Yeah.
So, hey, thanks for being with us. As we mentioned, you can grab that fun sticker to put on your laptop at malversgroup.com/stickers. And you can also link to that just from today's show notes at malversgroup.com/163. And we would just love to engage with you there too. Tell us if you've had some other ideas that would work. And if you're over there on YouTube, give this a thumbs up and maybe drop a comment below down there. Hey, buy a sticker. We're a nonprofit. We need all the help we can get. Do us a favor.
Yes.
Help us help you.
We expect to make tens of dollars off of these. And, but every penny counts.
That's right.
Yeah. I just want to close this out, AJ, by saying, to kind of just close the loop on the beginning of this episode. I was wrong. I assumed that people at least in this country, don't trust pastors. And it's true that 30% of people do not. But 70% of people somewhat or entirely do. And if that's the kind of goodwill that we still have in this culture, we are not taking advantage of that at all. And so we wanted to give you 3 very simple things that you can do. And you might look at that and go, none of that is mind-blowing. Yeah, what of those things are you doing? And maybe just take it on the chin and go, I could step up. I could do more. I could be leveraging this public trust more than I am today. So we hope this helps you. We hope this serves you. And with that being said, we will talk to you next week, encourage you next week with another actionable topic to help your church thrive. We'll see you next time.